Good morning, my good people of the internet. Happy to be here with you, hanging out where sports truly meets that thing called life. And we decided we were having a nice conversation off the air, decided to have it on the air with you now. So happy to be here with you and very excited about my guest that's going to be joining me here in just a second. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we will be joined today in a very special Dolphin Dive. You know the Dolphin Dive is exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our multimedia marketing partnership with the LeMoyne College Dolphins. And I am joined this morning picture in picture momentarily with Phil Harlow. Phil Harlow coming to us, who helped to set so many records, is a multi-Hall of Famer, went to Bishop Ludden, on to LeMoyne from there, and he has a wonderful story to tell. We are going to share that story this morning. Him and I got to meet over the weekend as we celebrated 75 years of LeMoyne men's basketball history, and him being a grand part of that history. And back in 1970-71, tying the record that was set from Richard Kenyon of 41 points in a game, which was broken this season by Kayem Cleary, who got 43 points. And so having all three of those gentlemen on the court celebrating 75 years, and the fact that the three single game leading scorers ever in the history of that 75 years were in the same room at the same time, which I've never experienced anything quite like that in 20 plus years of broadcasting. And I thought that to me is one of the true amazing pieces. Yet another LeMoyne Finn family connection, and seeing Richard, seeing Phil, and seeing Kayem all together to celebrate their history and the history of LeMoyne. So very excited to have Phil on the show. We'll continue in hour two with some Syracuse Hoops talk. The women's team doing an incredible job nationally, and the men's team having a little bump in the road that we'll discuss, and we'll round out the show with the ingredients to success every Tuesday, proudly presented by the fantastic team at Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. So with that being said, it's time to go picture in picture with Mr. Harlow here. Phil, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to meet with you.
Absolutely. And like I was saying in the intro here, you and I had the opportunity to meet, albeit, quickly, but to have the opportunity to say hello. And my
Yes.
entire intent that day, and I was there with my dad, and we'll get into that in a second here, but my intent
hmm
that day, knowing what we were doing, what we were celebrating, was I was like, I don't care about anything else that I have to do. I want to make sure that I speak with Richard, I speak with Phil, and that I make a
Right.
connection with you both so that we can celebrate your history and honor your history. And I really wanted to get to know you and my, you both, and my dad. It was awesome when I said to him, I was like, the record got broken tonight, and when it happened a couple weeks ago. And right off of his mouth, he was like, didn't Phil Harlow have the record? And my dad went to school shortly after you were at LeMoyne. So I'm so happy to have you here. There's a lot of
Thank
things
you.
to unpack, but I just want to say thank you for taking the time, because you definitely have made a very positive impact, I think, on a lot of people, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So we were talking about the story off the air. I'd love to share on the air how you ended up at Bishop Ludden in the early years of Bishop Ludden Junior Senior High School. Just what brought you there, and just what you can say about a time where, as you and I were discussing prior to the show, the team went 21-0, ranked number one in the country in boys basketball. So just the road to Ludden, and what that experience was like to be on the basketball team and make state history.
Yeah. Well, as I was sharing earlier, it was very interesting how things unfolded in my middle school years. I lived in the inner city of Syracuse. I attended city schools, and but I had some affiliations through the Catholic Church, and particularly with a gentleman who was a priest and a Monsignor by the name of Father and Monsignor Brady. My family was very integrated with the Catholic community at that time, and he provided. I remember coming home eighth grade after school one day, and I saw his car sitting outside of our home, and he was in having a conversation with my parents about an opportunity to come my way if I desired to pursue it. And it was basically to attend Bishop Ludden High School. Bishop Ludden High School had just recently been open, maybe a couple years, and was being postured and positioned as a school that would serve many students well, academically and otherwise. And I have to be honest with you, I think that what stirred me up when they presented the idea to me, which was totally out of unexpected, but it caught my attention right away, and I began to process it and think through it. And then I started thinking about my own dad's life. My dad was a sure pioneer in the city of Syracuse, and he uh, has many firsts in his background. He was the first black basketball official in the city of Syracuse. He was the first African American to serve in city administration of a key position in city administration in Syracuse. So my dad was very pioneering, and I think that pioneering nature was somewhat embedded in me as well. And long story short, after dialoguing and processing the option to basically break tradition in my family, because all of my brothers and my dad all went to the same high school. And it was just assumed that I would go to the same high school, but this opportunity uniquely was presented to me. And I think that embedded pioneering nature caused me to want to break through and do something different. And the truth of the matter is, in the '60s, that would have been in the early mid '60s that I went to Ludden. And when I say it was an interesting period, because it was a time when racial tensions were very high in our country. We're dealing with lots of issues at that time. So there were a lot of practical reasons why perhaps I would not want to go to a place like Bishop Ludden, which was obviously predominantly Caucasian. I came from the inner city, a different sort of background than what many had, and there were just a handful of ethnic students at the school.
Yeah.
But I've seemed to be challenged by that, and I think part of ultimately as I live life, I think part of my own personal calling is to build bridges and break down walls that exist in culture and society, and it was embedded in me to do that. I didn't know it was there, but that was a big part of my making that transition. So I did go to Ludden, and we did well there. I eventually made up the adjustments that I needed to make culturally, and became very active at the school, and not just athletics, but other student activities and student council and things of that nature. So it was a blessing for all those that I got to meet and to develop my skill set, and particularly athletically. You know the story, perhaps. I was part of the Green Machine. I was leading scorer in Central New York at that time, and we were number one in the state. So a lot of good things happened for me while I was at Bishop Ludden, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had there. That led to a lot of emphasis about my considering what my options were going to be after graduating, and because I did reasonably well in terms of my basketball prowess, there were a variety of opportunities that were available to me, and reasonably
Again,
well.
long story.
Long story. Mm-hmm.
Oh no,
Long
you're okay.
story short.
Yep.
Okay. Long story short, I think I shocked a lot of people. Well, I know that I did, even within my family, because there were opportunities to go play ball at much bigger programs in the Division I level as well. Certainly, I had opportunities at all levels, one, two, and three. Uh, but I recall the my growing up in Syracuse, and I knew something about LeMoyne, but I didn't know much, and not nor did many people that I was affiliated with from my community knew much about LeMoyne. In many ways, LeMoyne was very similarly situated as Bishop Ludden was. It was predominantly Caucasian, which is to be expected. It was not known for heavy engagement and involvement in the inner city of Syracuse, and there were not many people that I knew that I grew up with that ever knew much anything about LeMoyne or interested in going there, nor were they being recruited to go to LeMoyne. However, I recall in my junior and senior year in high school, I was just let to go to a couple games at LeMoyne, and I was very impressed with their caliber of play. As a smaller school, as I said, I had other opportunities to consider other programs, but I was greatly impacted when I finished my senior year and the recruiting process started, and I had the pleasure of playing for Coach Tom Nyland at that time, who had been the only athletic director and the only head basketball coach at LeMoyne. And but I was greatly impacted by a visit that he made to me and my family, my dad particularly, at my home in the city of Syracuse. And it was so much different than the other recruiting efforts that I experienced with other schools. And the netted out is that I remember sitting at our dining room table just talking, and he was sharing with me about why LeMoyne could be a benefit to me. And it was a conversation that was taking place that was beyond basketball. He was obviously interested in my coming to play ball, but he shared a perspective about others that had come through LeMoyne and the things that they had done and accomplished in the city. And at that time, I was thinking I would probably be staying in Syracuse after my time if I chose to go to LeMoyne. But I was impressed with the interest that he took in me in a personal way, inquiring about the things that I aspired to do in life, and certainly at that time, as most young people do, I wanted to play ball. But my thinking was a little bit different
Yeah.
than what some of my colleagues were at that time, and I always uh, thought about life in a more strategic way. I think the Lord has just given me that orientation. So I would think ahead about what happens after LeMoyne, what happens after. So the idea of the academic preparation, along with the opportunity to make a choice as to whether, and it was kind of a matter of, you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or small fish in a big pond, and because I had opportunities for other major programs, and but it all just kind of felt right for me to go in and do some of the things that I felt was stirring up in my heart at that time about how God wanted to use me, given the times we were living in, the challenges that we were having culturally, and I just made that decision. So I got to LeMoyne, and it was interesting. Uh, I can't say in all of my transition into environments and cultures that were different than the one that I came up in, that it was always a matter of welcoming committees, welcoming me readily. Some people had a lot of issue, and I'll share one story with you that's quite interesting and memorable. When I first came to LeMoyne, it was the second year that the NCAA had decided that freshmen would be allowed to play varsity. Back in the day,
Yeah.
freshmen had to play freshmen, and you had to, and it wasn't even allowed for freshmen to play varsity. That was the year I came into LeMoyne. So I came in as a freshman. I came in as a starter on the team. And in fact, that year set a few records in my freshman year, and then you know went on to the rest of my career. But I was playing with a whole group of seniors my freshman year. The whole starting five were four seniors and one freshman. That would have been myself. And so I was able to make an impact, right away, and subsequently I was able to do a few other things while I was there. Yeah.
When and I appreciate the background, and there's a lot of things that come to mind, Phil, as you were mentioning pieces of your history. Your father being a pioneer that you said
Hmm.
maybe kind of helped to invigorate, you being a pioneer yourself.
Hmm.
Growing up in times where, like you said, racial tensions and frustration. I mean, we're here in February. It's Black History Month.
Yes.
I I can appreciate that, but you never hear me kind of mention a month, right? I'm Italian and Hispanic, and
Hmm.
I don't. I mean, I'm happy to know that there's Hispanic Heritage Month and
Right.
whatnot, but at the same time, I feel like we should be celebrating all culture. I mean,
I agree.
if the whole point of
I agree.
equality is like, yeah, is being together, right, is being
Yes,
equal, is to
yes,
being one. I don't like it.
yes.
Hey, in February, let's care about the black community, and in September,
Right.
let's care about the Hispanics. I, I,
No,
I just feel like, as much as it's Black History Month and that's all well and good, I think we need to celebrate the history of just genuinely good people, and bring that all together, because there are so many good people that are from different backgrounds and nationalities and colors and shapes and sizes. And I just, I don't know, as you're sitting here talking, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, it's 2024. There's still problems 50
yes,
years after you were at school at LeMoyne. I mean,
yes.
and so to me, I'm happy in the celebration and the spotlights that we have, but why would we not celebrate wonderful people in black culture in March, in April, in May, in June, and people in the Caucasian world, and people that are Hispanic, and people from
Yes.
Italian descent and Asian descent, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So
Yeah.
the pioneer side of it, just what you can say to maybe going a little bit deeper into your dad's story, and then what your
Yeah.
thoughts are on the fact that sometimes when we say you have to celebrate this for 30 days, what we're not really pushing equality.
Yeah, I can appreciate that point. Is another aspect of my journey in life that you may not be aware of. I was a corporate executive for many, many years, and primarily at Xerox Corporation, and I served in an executive level position as a vice president of human resources, and as for a period of time as the chief diversity officer of the company. So I understand the whole construct of what it is that you were just sharing, and I resonate with that and agree with that. It's interesting. My wife and I were just having some conversation about that the other day ago, about the uniquenesses and how we bucket times and seasons to set things aside. And I understand the underlying historical context of that. But ultimately, I think what you were sharing is true. What we would be more hopeful for is that people would recognize, yes, that there's differences that we all possess, but not necessarily overemphasize the division one from another. I think some people are just intimidated sometimes about if we don't put that attention on it at designated times, that will lose over time uh, their own history and their own focus, because the culture is such that there are differences in terms of what gets valued and what doesn't. But on an individual basis, I think you're right. I think that the idea is that we can be appreciative of each other and value each other, not just for a month or two, but that it be a sincere appreciation for the differences that we all bring to the table. And so I have no qualm with your thought on that at all. So, but you were asking something more about my dad. Yeah, my dad.
Yeah.
When I'm from a family, you may not know this. I'm from a very large family of 12, six boys and six girls. And my father was also very uh, significantly recognized athlete in his own right, primarily in football. And even my older brothers, we all did well in high school and played sports. But most of them played football. A brother that went off and played for Syracuse football. My brother-in-law plays for Syracuse football. My older brother didn't go off to school, went into the Navy after he played, but he was an accomplished football player. I ended up being a basketball player. But the truth of the matter is that and that was the primary sport that my dad, he played all sports, but he was particularly impactful in football. So I thought I was going to be a football player behind all of
Mm.
that, coming
Yeah.
up. And then truly, in the early years of my life, probably between 10 and 12, my passion really was football. That changed in about fifth grade or so. I kind of realized that I had a particular talent and skill level that I was able to leverage, and it seemed to manifest itself more in the basketball arena. So when I got to Ludden, we actually had significant conversations about that, about whether I would play football, whether I would play basketball, I began to get more in touch with who I was, my physical makeup. I'm not a big guy at 5'10", and and most guys in football would be larger, bigger, what have you. So it seems to me it was more of a natural transition for me to put my emphasis more into basketball than it was football, and that's how I ended up making that investment there, and that played out as we know a bit about that story. I don't know if I'm hitting all of your questions or not, but I'm just letting it rip here.
No, and I can appreciate it because the tagline for Wake Up Call. I mean, there's a reason why it's called Wake Up Call. It's not just because it's a morning show, and we're meant to teach. We're meant to spread knowledge and wisdom. I learned from the people that are on the show. I hope to impart something to people that are listening and watching, to the people that are the guests, and we work together. And the tagline of the company forever has been where sports meets life. And
Yes.
everything you've been talking about today is the intertwining of sports and your life, and how
Yeah.
it gave to your life, how you gave to it, and how it continues to give to you today, all these years later, and making these connections, like you said, coming back on campus, and connecting with people you went to school with that maybe knew you but you didn't know them. They knew that you played
Right.
basketball, and now you're building these connections in another chapter of your life. So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yeah, so I mean, I
Hmm.
think there's so much to this story. There's so many places I can go, Phil, and every time I think about what avenue I want to take next with you, I'm like, well, I want to take that one, but I also want to take that one. So I mean,
Well,
well,
I'll share with you. I was sharing with you a little bit about interesting transition when I did make the choice to go to LeMoyne. Uh, it was a real transition for me. But my sophomore year, something happened. Yeah, as I say, we were in the throes of a lot of tension in the culture, and within the Black community at that time, uh, people were doing specific things as a matter of expression of identity, personal identity. Uh, in my end of my summer, the summer of my freshman year, uh, I did something that was just what was happening in the community at large. You may reflect on the times yourself, how old you are, but the um, the expression of Black folks with the physical presentation, we used to wear afros. And when I first came to LeMoyne, I had a hair expression that was more like what you see right now. Okay. But but when I came into my sophomore year, I decided to grow an afro, and that was a tremendous learning experience for me. That was what most young Black expressionable individuals would do as it relates to what was happening in the culture at that time. When I came back on campus in the fall of my sophomore year, and I did live on campus, uh, people didn't know. Many of them became exceptionally intimidated uh, by how I looked and what they knew me to be, look previously, just months previously, and now I come onto campus, and it helped me to learn more about how people think and how they are so significantly influenced by what it is that they see. Because I wasn't really any different. I was just flowing with the culture at the time, and I grew in Africa. But there were many people on campus that had to go through a process of gaining confidence that they could still interact with me because of the imagery of what even wearing an afro meant to so many people. Because at that time, you may recall there's a lot going on in terms of Black awareness and the like, but there was also extremist activities that were taking place in the culture, whether it be the Black Panther parties or what have you, which presented themselves, as did all Black people really, in a certain way. And that Afro style, that Afro look was something that got lots of people's attention. I had to go through a year of transition, helping people know that it was still okay. People were asking the question, whether they could still interact with Phil because they interpreted a physical presentation and it looked to mean something different than what it really meant, at that time. So that was that was an eye-opening experience for me in my sophomore year. And some never really did adapt to that quite well. A lot of people distanced themselves because of how they interpreted it. And I'm not talking just about students. I'm talking about certain administrators. I'm talking about certain professors, and so it's a dynamic change. So that caused me to fall into a place of analyzing, how people see the world, how they look upon each other, many times just by simple expressions of could it be a hairdo, could it be a dress style, could it be a whatever, let alone whether somebody's of a different race or whatnot. So that caused me to reflect about how much of a challenge there really was still in life, at least at that point, and probably still is, about how people draw judgments and wrong conclusions at times just by what they see.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, and I think it's so interesting. But I was having this conversation with someone who I consider a brother of mine, and I'm an only child, yet I have
Hmm.
a bunch of brothers in this world that we've chosen each other, and we're
Hmm.
different religions, we're different colors, we're different backgrounds, but we all bond on a lot of things. We bond on a belief, I would say a universal belief in God, a belief
Yes.
of being a good person. We like to make people laugh. I don't really understand when people say, oh, you know, it's really serious. I'm not around people that joke and this and that. And I was like, I laugh with my friends every single day. And
Yeah.
so my buddy Isaac and I were talking, and I said to him, and Isaac's African American, and we're him and I told him, I said, I don't see a difference in us. I said people might look at us and see a difference, but I said I tell people you're my brother because to me we're
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
I love now, and this is different, and people don't know this, but you brought it up, and so I want to make a point of this. The Black Panther group, the Black Panther movement, is not the same as
Hmm.
Marvel's Black Panther character that had
Right.
absolutely nothing to do with it.
Right.
But I want to bring this up because this happened recently, within the last decade or so, in Syracuse, in my home, and that is that I love the Black Panther character. I have sweatshirts, I have pants, I have t-shirts, I have a hat. My last car that I had was nicknamed the Black Panther because it looked like the face of it in the front with kind of like the chromish
Hmm.
looking piece. So I mean, he's one of my favorite characters with Spider-Man, and so I have a lot of stuff of him. I went in to have lunch with a couple people that I knew, and I was wearing my Black Panther hat, and it's clearly him. It's the character of him, and the guy
Hmm.
looked at me and he said, "Why are you wearing that?" He said, "You can't sit at our table if you wear that hat." And I said,
Hmm.
"Excuse me?" And I looked around and I was like, "It's a Marvel character." I said, "My
Hmm.
car is named the Black Panther. I have keychains. This is my hat. Like this is a character I love. I
Hmm.
like Chadwick Boseman. I'm sad that I'm happy he's back with God. I'm sad he's not here. So
Hmm.
to me, it was like, why can't I like the character? And this person who is of a different color background was just like, you can't wear that hat. It's disrespectful to me. You don't know the background. And I was like, no, you don't know the background. That this had the character and the group have nothing to do with each other. The character was not
Hmm.
made for the group. There's nothing in the comics that suggests that as far as I know that this character had any connection to it. And I just thought about, this is kind of ridiculous. So Isaac and I, years later, last week, I said to him, I was like, I wear all my Black Panther stuff sometimes when I go out. I have sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And I said, the way that the world feels today, I feel like some people might look at me like, why is that guy wearing that character? That's not his
Hmm.
character, that's our character. And
Hmm.
I don't think I have any ownership of Spider Man over the African American community more than they have the ownership of the Black
Right.
Panther over mine. But, I mean, I talk to my friends about this and I'm like, you can feel people kind of like look at you at times like, why are you supporting that? Why are you wearing that? What should you be allowed to wear that? And I'm like, it's 2024. I have a Black Panther sweatshirt on because I love the character and I love the movies.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you why I chose to wear it, but you talk about having the afro and what does that mean? And can people come up to you? It's 2024, and I look at this and I'm like, why, as a human being, am I thinking to myself when I put a sweatshirt on that's comfortable, that I love, of a character that I love? Why is my head thinking, wow, I wonder if someone's going to look at me and wonder why I'm wearing this when I go out in public today? I'm
Hmm.
kind of sad that I'm thinking that in 2024, Phil.
Yeah. Well, it's a reality. There's still a journey that we're all on, and I think some things that you and I talked about earlier is that genuine love, which only comes from the appreciation for the love that the Lord has for us, that gives us the proper perspective in terms of how it is that we should be looking upon one another. Some people don't have that embedded relationship with the Lord to be able to have that perspective. So that's my prayer, is that He continues to deal with all of us and mankind to have us to come to a place that we can honor and respect certain differences that exist. But at the end of the day, He has made us one in Christ. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that very much. So I mean, I guess I tell people all the time, growing up as a kid, I grew up in the '80s. I was born in '85,
Yeah,
and it was. I think people might not think about this, or they might forget about this, but there was segregation still going on. There were weird
sure.
things that happened, and when I was a kid, and I remember being 7 years old, and my grandparents lived on Rig Eye Ave, right off of like Midler, and so
Hmm.
so they're on that street. And I'm growing up as a kid. I'm 7 years old. I played basketball too. Love basketball. Love the sport. And nobody, on the street would ask me to play. I didn't have a hoop at my grandmother's house. So there was a family that moved in, African American family, two brothers, and one probably kind of around my age, and then a younger brother. And one day they were like, "Hey, do you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we would play with each other on the street, and I always appreciated that they invited me over. And there was a car that went by one time, and it slowed down, and there was a Caucasian man in the car, and he stared at the three of us a little bit longer than I think you should. And then it was kind of like he didn't understand, why are these three people together. And then I went to a school that was private and Catholic,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
all of that, and there was 770 students, and there was like two African American students at the time. I had none in my
Right,
class. And
right.
when I was at Our Lady of Pompeii, Courtney Samuels, who to this day was probably the person that challenged me the most when it came to, like, I was the guy that I was like, I challenged myself to get 100 on everything. Courtney and I would go to battle in spelling bees, and he challenged the heck out of me. He was the only, at the time, African American kid in my class, and then Marika came in later on. But I just remember, like, back then as a kid, I just appreciated good people. But you could
Yeah,
tell that, like, when you shook the hand of Courtney and gave him a hug, that other people maybe wouldn't do that.
right.
So, I mean, in my life, looking back to my childhood, I remember those times, Phil, of me saying, "These are my friends," and then feeling people go, "Why?" And
Yeah.
it was, I guess I'm sad. I'm sad that that's been a part of our history, but I'm moved by the fact that, at least in my life, and I tell people this all the time, if you close yourself off, if I had closed myself off to people of different backgrounds or anything than me, I would have missed out on 99% of my friends.
Yeah.
So, to me, I would say to people watching and listening, look at the heart of somebody more than anything else, because if you don't, you're really going to not challenge yourself, and you're going to miss out on a lot. You're not going to have anybody to play basketball with. You're not
Mhm.
going to have anybody to challenge you in the spelling bee. And, I really wish that the world would just look at the content of someone's character more than anything else.
That would be helpful. I think a lot of times some people have just been unfortunate that they haven't had the opportunity to have the exposures, and I to others to be able to broaden their worldview. And that was really my experience at both Ludden and LeMoyne. When I showed up at both of those institutions, there were a handful. I mean, literally. I mean, there's less than 10 people of ethnicity at both of those schools when I showed up. Matter of fact, it was very purposeful. I was so challenged by it, and that I became a student recruiter for LeMoyne while I was there, and used to travel with some of the recruiting staff, particularly when they were going into inner city locations like New York City and what have you. I would travel with them and try to come and bring another perspective. But my goal was to help facilitate the opportunity for LeMoyne to become more representative of the communities that we come from. So I was pleased that when I showed up there, there might have been something less than 10 students of color, but I think when we left, there were about 50 plus. And now it's they've done a great job in enhancing their representation in the school, which is part of life's learning experience. And we put a lot of time in our efforts when we go off to school or what have you. So people are isolated, and the truth of the matter is, you take a place like LeMoyne. When I came there, it they had a profile. It was a profile that they had, and that's what you would see. It was Caucasian, Catholic, and that's pretty much what it represented. So anybody that was quite different uh, wouldn't necessarily make that choice to come to a place like LeMoyne was at that time. But they've made great strides. You may not know, I served on the board of trustees there for about 8 years, and tried to help co-facilitate some of the dynamics of there in regards to representation, just not in the student body, but just in, who was being hired in administration, who was being hired in professorships and the like, because it is a critical time in life, and people that have been isolated and not have that had the opportunity, and not necessarily because of their own choice either, just a matter of where they come from, and not having had an experience, and that they've been shaped and molded in such a way to think and look at people in a certain way, whether that be good or bad. It's like could be a lifelong kind of challenge that they can be presented with, depending on how they've been nurtured, and how to look at the world and how to look at other people.
Yeah, here with Phil Harlow in this very special edition of the Dolphin Dive, Bishop, Ludden, and LeMoyne alum and multi Hall of Famer. I do want to jump in the sports world, and I want
Yeah.
to jump into something else before I say see you soon to you, because, like I said, Phil, you're kind of stuck with me now. So, as we look at we had a question that came in. It said, "Did you keep the afro through the remainder of your college career? How accepted were you by your teammates during your freshman year as you were playing as a starter in your freshman year?"
It was my freshman year. First thing, I'll answer the first question. I did. I had an afro for the rest of my tenure there at LeMoyne, and right on into my corporate experience. My going back to my freshman year, great athletes, guys that I had seen play uh, uh, at their high school level that went off to LeMoyne, very, very accomplished players. Uh, but I'll just say it was an interesting transition. I think there were a lot of issues. Not only did I come from a different place, not only did I look different, but I was coming into territory that these guys had been, let's say, the shapers of Lemoyne athletics for years before I got there. So when I showed up, everything was kind of different, and because of the impact in that first year that I had, I can't say that it was totally welcomed by everyone. Uh, so there were some transitionary challenges that we had. I remember, I'll just share this. I probably shouldn't, but I'll just share. So I remember when I first showed up on campus, and the season opened up, and I would say for uh, the first month or two, when we would practice leading up to opening season, there were rarely a day that I would come out of practice where I didn't have some major, or not major, but some physical dynamic that had transpired in practice. I mean, let's just say I was being oriented and I was being challenged in many ways, including physically. Out on the court were uh, guys that were seniors, and I was as freshmen. They were going to let it be known that this was their territory, and so I had to navigate through that. So I think it was probably not until mid-season where some of the guys that were not as accepting uh, came to the realization that I was here and this is what I brought, and they were just going to have to adapt. And always had this strong support from Mr. Nyland. He recognized, that's why he recruited me, that I had something to offer. And but everybody wasn't looking for that, to be honest with you, in the initial year. But after that first year, uh, things moved in a totally positive direction. But my freshman year was a real tough year. Even though I accomplished a lot that year, I actually gave serious thought to some of the other opportunities that had been made available to me before I made the LeMoyne choice, and because of my challenging transition there, I gave serious consideration to transferring at the time. Uh, but my father, being who he was and the way he raised me and my siblings, I remember one day coming home after a certain game, there were some things that transpired that were troubling to me. And I remember going home and I telling my dad, I think I'm going to make a move. And this isn't really playing out like I had hoped. And and I remember him looking me in the eye and he said, "So you're saying you're going to quit?" And I know what he was saying when he asked me that question. He said, "You can't quit. That's not what we do. You gotta forge through it. You're a freshman, you're seniors, and but I was giving serious thought. I had those opportunities still available for me to do that. Uh, but uh, but that statement all by itself caused me to fall back and say, "Yeah, you're kind of right," because you made me realize that this is part of the life experience that we all live. Everything's not going to always go just the way that you want it to go, no matter how talented you are, no matter how skilled. Life is going to throw some things at you, and your job is to forge your way through it, write it off as a learning experience, and grow from it. And know that this is all part of the preparation process. So when you graduate, whether it be from LeMoyne or wherever, uh, this is part of life's challenges. Everybody's not going to be accepting, but you got to know your purpose and your role and keep forging forward. And through that interaction that day, I made a decision that I was going to stay, and I did stay, and it got better immediately after that. My mindset shifted about what the whole college experience was all about, and I was going to get as much out of it as I could and take it on to my next step in life.
You say something, Phil, when you just said when you said I think I'm going to make a move, and your father said so you're going to quit.
Right.
When I was 7 years old, I started playing basketball in an organized, like being on a team and whatnot. I fully will say God gave me the talent. I prepared myself to shoot from anywhere, and I absolutely loathed running. So
Yeah.
I got, the opportunity D3 wise to have a look, which I will always appreciate. And but my dad said something to me when I was 7 years old. I was on a team at Pastimes, North Salina Street, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't playing that much. And I was like, Dad, the coach doesn't even look at me. He doesn't even know me. It doesn't matter what I do in practice. And I'll never forget this. he was in the bath, like standing in the bathroom, and I came around the corner from my room that was like looking right into his, and I said, "Dad, I'm gonna quit. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be
Hmm.
here for this coach. I want to go somewhere else where I'm appreciated."
Hmm. Hmm.
And it sparked when you said it. My dad looked at me and he goes, "No, you're not." And I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "It's my life." He goes,
Hmm.
"No." He said, "Daniel, there are things in life, of course, but he said, in this thing, I cannot, no, you're not quitting." And I said, "Why?" I said, I don't want to do it, Dad. This is my life." He said, "Because I'm going to tell you this right now." He said, "If I let you quit today, if I let you quit on this, if I let you quit right now, you will quit for the rest of your life."
Yeah.
And it just hit me when you said that.
Hmm. Hmm. I relate to that. Yeah.
So you didn't quit. By the way, this it's the most I've said the word in a while because it makes me want to throw up. I don't like the word. So,
Oh,
but
good.
but you kept going. You had an amazing history and career. You mentioned Tom Nyland, and I want to go to Tom for a second. As you said, things were hard, and you were being oriented in a different way, coming out with bumps and bruises and whatnot. Tom wanted you to come to LeMoyne. What can you say about his leadership and at a time where racially things are uncomfortable, you're in a place where it's like foreign territory, but you're playing a sport that you love? Was Tom in his own way a pioneer? Did he help to create an avenue? Do you appreciate the fact that even though people might have had an issue with him going out and recruiting a certain
Right.
way and certain
Oh,
people
I
that
know he did. I know he did have those challenges. Well, let me first say this.
yeah.
I had the highest regard for Tom Nyland. I was blessed at both the high school level and at the college level to have the honor and the pleasure to be able to um, play for, well, from my experience, obviously, two of the greatest coaches in the Syracuse area, college and high school. In fact, I played for Terry Quigley, and sometimes um, you don't know how people perceive you beyond what it is that you do out on the basketball court. I had the pleasure a couple of years ago when Terry Quigley passed away. And I didn't know, but he was living over here in Rochester with his family as he was dealing with some extended illnesses. And when his family became knowledgeable of the fact that I was in ministry or what have you, they asked if I would do a eulogy for him here in Rochester, which really threw me back. That they would ask me to do that, even though I am functioning as a minister. Um, but I had that experience with Quigley, who was a great disciplinarian, and what have I learned so much and developed uh, under him. Then went to LeMoyne, and to be honest with you, a large part. I told you a story earlier on uh, about how I was impacted in the manner in which they recruited me, the personal interest, and our conversations with my family was less about basketball as much as it was preparation and what we were hoping to accomplish after school, after graduation. But he reminded me, I'll be honest with you, he was a family man, had a large family as well. He and my dad came up in the same era and they knew of each other, and I could see these common characteristics that they both had. And it indirectly, and I realized it more later in life, that I was influenced by that because I was greatly impacted by my dad, but I saw some of the same characteristics. So I think in large part, I kind of was kind of an extended father figure, if you will. And I knew of LeMoyne, like I said, I studied LeMoyne for a year or so, and there was not a lot of things that necessarily appealed that said that this would be the best choice for me. But it was yet that personal uh, connection. And I'll be honest with you, when when I went from my freshman year to my sophomore year in the whole Afro story, the person that I thought was going to be most problematic with it was I thought would be Mr. Nyland because he was a very conservative, old school, disciplined approach to everything. And because what I was coming back with was not the image that LeMoyne would typically, embrace. At least that was my view. Um, but he was one of the most complimentary people and reinforcing to me about being who I am. While others that I would have thought might have been uh, weren't so much so. So yes, I have a great regard for Mr. Nyland on so many different levels. Got a chance to see one of his sons who was there at the event this past weekend. We had time to reflect a little bit, and that was good. So I don't know that I've answered the whole question, but yes, Mr. Nyland was very embracing. Nothing ever changed. He was reinforcing to me, even during my freshman year. He saw everything that was unfolding my freshman year that caused me to maybe think that I was going to make uh, a move. But he was very reinforcing about why he came after me and what he thought of me, and not only as a player but as a person.
And I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate. I mean, in the irony again of these connections, you are of 12, and my dad's, my father's father, my grandfather, he was one of 12, and you talk about Tom Nyland and his big family. His granddaughter and I went to school together, so it's
Hmm.
just it's just funny how connected the world is. Speaking of connection, you're on the court with Richard Kenyon. Now, Richard Kenyon back in 1954 set the record
Yeah.
of 41 points in the 1970-71 season. You tied the record of 41 points single game. That record had held for when it started with Richard Kenyon. 70 years that record held. You tied that record. It continued to hold. And this season, Kayem Cleary breaks the record. I'm on site for that game. He hits 43 points, and the over this past weekend as we celebrated 75 years, you and Richard were on the court as Kayem was given a commemorative ball to celebrate the moment. What are your thoughts? Did you get to spend any time with Kai? Did you get to talk with him at all, and just what it was like to be there with Richard and be there with Kai to celebrate your history? And I guess coming off of that, are you okay with that the record was broken? I know you have a bunch of records, but sometimes you ask people and they're like, "Man, I hope it sticks," and other people are like, "No, I want them to break it." So, what are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
no. Well, first of all, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to have any personal interactive time with Cayenne. In fact, I learned of it all very late in the process. I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to be at the event because it all came to me really late in the process. But we were able to maneuver. I wanted to be there, so we made some changes to be there. But when I got there, there was no forum at the time. Perhaps I can still follow up, get a chance to meet the young man. But what you saw is what was the extent of my interaction with him when we came out to walk out on the court and acknowledge his breaking the record. Uh, so no, unfortunately, I would have liked to, but there were several other people that wanted to interact, and before the game and after the game, so I was not getting just didn't get that opportunity just then. And as far as the record itself, the record is held up for whatever. Records. Some people say records are meant to be broken, but there's some that won't ever be broken, and maybe I got some of those still on the books as well. But uh, be that as it may, no, I have nothing but admiration for guys that dedicate themselves and be able to pursue a level of excellence. And in this case, Kayam, I don't know that much about him really in terms of his overall game and what have you, but as it relates to that record, his 41 points, I just know a lot of people were coming up to me at the event on Saturday, and and say, well, I just remember when you set that record. But I also remember that we didn't have a 3-point shot. We didn't have a this. And I said, oh, you're right. I said, my 41 points back then in by today's measures might have been 51 or 61. I don't know, because we just didn't have uh, a 3-point shot at that time. We didn't have a 45-second clock or 30-second clock, whatever is using these days. Um, so yeah, I have just great admiration for guys that dedicate themselves when they can achieve at that kind of level. But I don't know really that much about this game. I was talking to somebody the other day. Matter of fact, it was another interview that I did with someone that day, and they were asking me my view about uh, players today versus players of the past, and what do I see the distinction being. And I began talking about the talent that the younger kids seem to have today compared to my era in terms of just the physical capabilities and what have you that they have. And that guy said to me, he said, "Yeah, but you still got this record and you still got that record." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "So you're making it sound like these guys are so much better." I said, "No, I didn't say they were better. I said they were very talented." I said they're very talented guys, but I didn't say they were better players, because I think there's a whole difference in that dynamic of what a good player is and what a very talented player is and what can be accomplished uh, in those two different postures. Yeah.
And I'm looking at right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your average of 21 points per game in your entire career at LeMoyne is a record. Your 23.6 points per game
Yeah.
average in 71-72 is a record.
Yeah.
Share with everybody the record books and the fact that Phil Harlow is very much a part of many of these. And I do like the fact that, you added in there, hey, there was no 3-point line back then. So yeah, I had
Yeah.
41, but maybe I had 52. So,
Right.
share with us, where you stand in the world of this, because when you go back and look on your history and, you're in the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame and the LeMoyne Gold Wave. And as I'm looking at these different pieces, 21 points per game average in a career is remarkable. When, I'm a basketball fan, I'm a card collector, and you'd flip on the other, side, and you look at somebody and 20 any points per game on average, you're thinking this is one of the best guys in the country. This is one of the best girls
Yeah.
in the country. And, and then you look at 20 as it stood in 71 72, 23.6 points per game for that season. I mean, these are numbers that are reputable in any world of basketball. So, I mean, these records are here. What would you like to share about, the connections that you still have to LeMoyne history and LeMoyne's record books?
Well, more power to anyone that comes along that is blessed and gifted. I think that was my storyline. I mean, God just blessed me with a certain set of skills and capability, and was able to play for good coaches that were able to maximize getting out of me what I had to offer. And but I believe that there'll be others that will come along for sure that will break some of those records that still stand. But I recognize that I just use what it is God gave me, and I think that it ended up being what it is. And I even we talk about no 3-pointers and what have you. That's real. I think the more telling point is that there was a record that did get broken that I held for many, many years as well, and that was the all-time leading scorer just in terms of points.
Yeah.
And but that if you look at the guys that surpassed me, that it was like we played like an average of 20 games a season, and the average that these young men play today is like 30. So there's like a season and a half of more games that people play. So the points just keep adding up, and we just didn't play as many games as they did or they do today. So I don't sweat any of that. I think that my mark was made for the time that I was to be on the court and to have an impact, and it's what it is. And others will come along, and more power to anyone that like I said earlier, that has dedicated themselves. I like to feel that as an athlete, I was truly dedicated. I was sharing with someone uh, the other day ago who asked me that question. I said, "What about that one year that you were 23.6, 24 points a game?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "The only thing I can attribute to that is, of course, now there was a progression, from freshman to sophomore. I was enhancing my game as relates to that point of how many points you score. But I said, but there's an aspect of my game that I like to talk about that many people never talk about because it's just a part of the culture about who scored how many points and what have you. And even though I did score a lot of points, um, that had its purpose on the team. Um, but what I always admired about my own game is that I was the one that was being asked to take on the toughest defensive assignment. Uh, and then again, so whether somebody was a guard or a forward, whoever they were, if that was their primary guy, I typically got that assignment to have to defend. And I considered myself a pretty good defensive player, but because of the points and the averages and all of that, people put the attention on that. But the better, as good a part of my game was I was on the defensive end. And I even say, back in the day when I played, they didn't they didn't track. Well, we tracked it in the books, but they never kept it in the books. Well, assists and steals and what have you. I look at the record books today, and you get into the '80s. That's when they started tracking that stuff. But I'm sure I'm in the top echelon there when it comes to steals and even assists. Even though I scored a lot of points, I prided myself in giving the ball up where that opportunity was always there. So it isn't all about just the points from my perspective. It's like, what did I have to contribute? And I like to think that I contributed in a way that was well beyond just the points that I scored. Yeah.
That coming here from Phil Harlow in this edition of the Dolphin Dive exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Phil, I know that you've given some extra time this morning. I do want to ask two more topics of you
Sure.
that I would definitely love to share. That being one that you save the best right here for the, and I don't want to say best for last because like I said, I mean we could have stuck on one topic today that we were
Yeah.
starting to talk about. I would be remiss and it would be wrong of me. That's the thing that is at the core of us both if I don't mention that. And people that know the show know that this is me. I don't push it on anybody, but it's my life, and there is no more important thing in my life than God. I know
Yes.
that God is such a big part of your life too, and we got to speak about it off the air. But in a world that seems devoid of hope at times and confused, and I find it so ironic that it seems like we live in a world where so many people, including young people, are looking for a God and trying to make one when there's one that is just waiting for you to say hello. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share, your connection with God and maybe impart some knowledge and wisdom to the world today that is through AI and through material and through status is trying to create themselves as their own God, trying to find a God when there is one that they seem to just not want to open up to at times. And it makes me sad, but the only thing that I can do to combat hate and negativity and lack of faith is to just continue to show people what God can do in somebody's life. So I'd love for you to share
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. God is indeed at the center of my life and has been for many years, and even going back to the days of high school and college, I was always a little different. uh, I mean, I didn't know what I know today in terms of, and I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about coming into that place at an early, late age in my life of having a relationship with Jesus Christ, knowing who he was, what he represented, why he was sent by God. And that was to forgive all of us of our sin and to show us that the love of God is what we will find is the only place that we're going to find completeness and some level of satisfaction in our journey in life. And as a minister of the gospel now, I'm actually concerned and troubled uh, by what we see around and about us as the culture evolves to being less God-fearing. I think that it is a phenomenal challenge. I find that to be the case as a minister, and in our sharing times, there's a falling away. Even though I believe in much that has been spoken prophetically, that God is going to be facilitating revival in the land, and I certainly want to be a part of whatever it is that God wants to do in the land. But we're in a bad place, I think, more so than anything I've ever observed or experienced in life. And I'm a person that stays pretty engaged and aware of what's happening and what's evolving in the culture, politically and otherwise. So I'm fairly well informed about such things. But what I do see is a constant deterioration in terms of people embracing uh, the real answer to the challenges that we have, uh, not just as a nation, but as a culture on a global level. So, so my appeal, as it is for anybody that come into a true relationship with the Lord, is to say that He is the answer for everything that we may have challenges with. And my hope and my prayer is that God would use me and use others, and I'm yourself at your program, because you're not hesitant. I sense that you're not hesitant about sharing over the airwaves, which is a phenomenal blessing to you to have that platform to not just talk about the sports or whatever else is your show focuses on, but to integrate the reality of God and who He is, because at the end of the day, He is the answer. He is the answer for those that are out there that are hurting, those that are out there that are feeling unloved, those that are out there that are feeling as though they're failures. Uh, God is the one that comes in and intervenes through His Son, Jesus Christ, to fill the voids, fill the gaps that you may be feeling at this point in time. So you can know that God will be one as we deal with things in life, that He says it in His Word that He will never leave us or forsake us, even when we've had failures and shortcomings and fallings, failures. He doesn't give up on us. So there's positive opportunity ahead of us. I know I may be sounding like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth, but I'm really not. Uh, Things are not so well in our nation, in our country. There's more divide that's seems to be evolving through political figures and the like. And I say, well, get your hope and your trust off of those figures, and get your hope and trust uh, on God, and God will be there. And as I say, He won't leave you or forsake you. Whatever your particular personal challenges might be, uh, He will fill the void, and He will bring you through.
You know, I guess, and I can appreciate everything that you just said. How did we get here to the point that
Hmm.
we're at right now?
Hmm. Well, I just think that, it's an evolution. We've seen it for years. I know in my lifetime, I'm 72 years old now. Uh, but I'm a person that gives lots of thought to seasons of life and what I've seen evolve. And it's just a deterioration in our core values and our core beliefs. And the most significant core belief that we have had as a nation, of course, was that we had an embedded basic, solid respect for the things of God in the past. I have seen that change in every sector of society, whether it be in the educational arena, whether it be in the governmental arena, whether it be in the business arena. There's just been deterioration in our core values as it relates to things of God. So we're seeing the consequences of that. And we're praying and believing that there will be a turnaround, that God would raise up people that re-embrace that which this country was always originally established on, and that is a belief in God. But there's a godlessness trail that's been evolving, and we're just going to have to pray that God can turn that thing around. Yeah.
Well, I know that I know that God can do anything, and
You can.
I know that they always say meet him halfway. And there's times where he will carry the whole way, but I tell people all the time, listen, if you want to see change, it's not that God can't do it. God could snap his fingers and we're all robots and we love him because he
Right.
makes us love him, but because of free will and because of that choice, we have to choose to go toward God, and
Yes.
we have to choose. You wouldn't chain somebody to your wrist and say whether you love me or not, you have to be with me.
Right.
And that's the same thing God did. God said, "Hey, these aren't my slaves; these are my people."
Right.
And I pray every day that good people speak up and that we see this, because what I see as a common denominator of the godlessness is I see a
Yes.
lot of faces of people that are yearning for something, that don't know who they are, that have lost
Yeah.
something. And I tell people all the time, a loss of identity, that's a devil thing.
No,
that's when the devil
absolutely.
attacks, is to destroy your identity and to take you at a time where you have no idea who you are and who your maker is.
Hmm.
So,
That's right.
I think there's a lot of work that we can do. And, I appreciate what you've chosen to do in your life. I mean, we know this great basketball history, but, you go back to the beginning of your story and your father and being a pioneer and everything that he's done, and the
Yes.
effect that he had on your life and helping others. And now here you are, ordained and in your own ministry working to help people yourself. So the
Yes.
guy who they sat there and cheered for and clapped for
Yes.
is now turning the script and saying, I want to make sure that I do what I can to cheer and clap and raise up
Yes.
other people in the name of God, and help them to
Yeah.
get to a better place. So I want to
Yes.
thank you for doing that, Phil.
Yeah. And I just want to make one comment, if I could, is that I shared some insights about certain things. I didn't go too deep. We could do this all day, actually. But the I trust in nothing that I've said, that whoever might be hearing or listening, that anybody would be offended by anything that I might have shared. That's certainly not my intention, but I have moved into a place in life about when people ask me about my story, and I have to kind of gauge, or you can't tell it all, but you can tell some of it, and sometimes your story is really not appreciated unless you begin to share more, and the whole journey is not always what people think it is. You know what I mean? There's some good and there's some not so good. And I wouldn't want to hope nothing that I've said, in particular about my transition to LeMoyne, is not intended to be offensive towards anyone, um, as much as it is to just say this is part of my story. And it's all been good, wonderful people. Many that I didn't even get a chance to mention because of the context of how we were having the conversation. But there are certain people at LeMoyne that stood out to me that were so instrumental in my life, beyond that had nothing to do with the basketball. That certain administrators that I got to know that were influential. I remember when I got my first job, I accepted a job with Xerox Corporation here in Rochester, and I started 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after I graduated. And that whole decisioning process of whether I do that at that time, take that job, which ended up being a phenomenal blessing to me over 4 years, because I had a choice to make. Because I did have some opportunities to go and play ball after college, which most young people at that age, that's what they're looking to do. I want to go play ball. I want to play D1. I want to be an NBA. God was already dealing with me in a way that helped me to understand how to prioritize certain things in life that tie back to some of the lessons from my dad, of course. Uh, but I I'm just so thankful for the opportunities that were available and the ones that I didn't go pursue. I mean, I had opportunities to go play in Europe and other places, and but God gave me clear mindedness about uh, how to weigh those things and what was going to be most beneficial over the long term.
Well, and to bring it all full circle in closing, Phil, you and I met because of your time at LeMoyne and your history there. Like you said, you served on the board, and when you were a student, it was important to you to make sure that you didn't just help your own path, but you helped other people. When you
Mhm.
reflect on LeMoyne and the evolution of the LeMoyne College Dolphins and everything that they're doing there, President Dr. Linda Lemura, who's an absolute
Phenomenal.
sweetheart, pioneer in her own right,
Yes.
constant place of just sanctuary. I don't think I tell her this all the time. I don't know if anybody gives better hugs. And she
Yeah.
because she's warm and her word, her mindset when she's focused on something that she wants to do. I mean, in all honesty, I really can't say enough about Linda, and I don't say this
I
because
agree.
of our partnership. I say it because she really and I tell her this all the time. I'm like, Linda, you have to know that there's not presidents like you. There's not
Yeah.
people that treat people the way you do, that are who they say they are, that back up the words that they say, that have genuine love in their heart, that make an effort. And when you have no energy left to give to the world, you give the world, more energy than most people that had the energy to give. And I can't say enough about her. I can't say enough about Bob Beretta. And,
Yes.
as an athletics director, as a leader, I tell him this all the time. And I actually said this yesterday. The bar set so high for me in working with colleges and universities because of Bob and Linda, and because of how they treat people, because of what they do, because of their faith, because of their unwavering of their morals and values.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that leadership, and I don't want to cut you off here, but to look at that leadership and just what your thoughts are on Bob and Linda, as well as, like you said, you went through a time in this country where this country was not doing things right, but that time that you spent at LeMoyne, Tom Nyland, the belief he had in you, his willingness to take on stress and anxiety to try and pave a path for yourself to being
Yes.
a part of the board. I mean, LeMoyne has been a great part of your history, and I'd love for you to share that in closing.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned those two individuals now, but I will say I haven't known Bob really just for the first time to meet him personally. We've exchanged emails and things of that nature about things that were happening on campus athletically. We've tried to be supported from afar. Uh, but Linda, Dr. Linda, I have had more interface with, interaction with for different events that have taken place. And I can honestly say on the board for the 9 years or so that I was on the board, I've served under probably four other presidents. Uh, she has brought something that's new and fresh and alive and energetic. Not to mean that as a criticism for others, but it is a classic example to me of God positioning people in the right place at the right time. I think LeMoyne needed Linda Lamora, and the momentum and the energy and all of that she represents has been such a positive influence. And I honestly can say from afar, I'm less involved with LeMoyne than I have been in the past, but I feel more connected to LeMoyne than I ever have before. And had a chance to interact with her at my 50th anniversary back in the summer, and they were gracious enough. I was a recipient of the St. Ignatius Award at LeMoyne for community service. That she was very gracious in her presentation of that to me. So yeah, I have a high regard, even though I haven't had the time and energy spending time with her. But the few handful of half dozen interactions that I have had since she's been on board has been nothing less than encouraging and inspiring for what I think LeMoyne uh, is growing into, even beyond what they've been a great institution, but I think they're growing into something greater, something bigger under her leadership.
Amazing words. here this morning, and appreciation. I echo those sentiments with Linda and with Bob and Phil. To say this to you before I let you go here today, and I'm already looking forward to our next conversation. I think I might have to drive my butt to Rochester. Maybe we can sit and have a conversation in person.
Yeah.
And but looking at your time at Bishop Ludden, at LeMoyne, all of your time after that to where you are now as a minister in multiple different Hall of Fames in the sports world and in life, you've connected it in such a beautiful way, and it's all had a place with God in your life. As you said, God's been at the center of all of these
Yes.
things. It bonds where sports meets life. In my tagline, it bonds God at the center of my life. To hear all these things from you today, I want to say that as you speak so highly of Tom Nyland, of your father, of Bob Beretta, of Dr. Linda Lemura, of the people that have helped you along the way, I want to turn it to you and turn that spotlight and say, beyond basketball, beyond records, beyond everything that you've done, when I had the opportunity to come and meet you and meet your family and shake hands with you impromptu at the game over the weekend, your smile, your warmth, hey, yeah, give me a call, let's talk. That open opportunity that you gave me in order to have this conversation today, that I was very much looking forward to. I want to thank you for
Thank you.
your openness. I want to thank you that the show started later than we were going to start it because you were being so open and honest. And the first thing you asked me, and there's people that have done so many great things in their lives and they talk about themselves. And the first thing that you said to me was, okay, before we get started, like, I want to know about your story. I want to know about your
Hmm.
journey. Tell me, kind of what you're all about.
Hmm.
And Phil, I can't find enough words to say thank you for allowing this show to be exactly what it is and for being so open to sharing stories about God and life and what matters. I'm
Hmm.
very honored that you allowed me the opportunity to share your story. And I'm very thankful that, you and I got to have a conversation that feels like it's just us. I know there's people
Yeah.
watching and listening, but this is a very fruitful discussion for me. And I feel like I'm just sitting on the couch talking to somebody that's really moved me this morning. And I want you to know that I feel that spirit, and I appreciate it. I really do appreciate, the
Well,
fact that,
God is in the connecting business.
yeah, he is. And
Hmm.
and, and I definitely I really do appreciate the fact that you took the time. There's certain things that you don't really put words on, but it just kind of, in your, I know I'm gonna walk out of the studio today and I'm gonna carry this stuff with me, and I'm gonna take some things that we spoke about, and it really does. It means a lot to know, my dad be like, "Oh, Phil Harlow," and to hear that in my dad's voice of like, "Yeah, like I remember him. I remember, a good player and this and that." But then to get to speak with you today, man to man, and just have a really genuine conversation is something that
Yeah.
I'm grateful for.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and um, I'm honored to have had the opportunity to be on your show.
Well, you and I will be talking soon, and like I said, thank you for all the extra time today. I appreciate it, and more than anything else, keep spreading God's love because we need it.
I'm committed to that. Praise God.
Thank you. Take
All
care,
right.
Phil.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
See you. That coming here from Phil Harlow on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us today. We appreciate, of course, Phil being here with us today. And it is. It's kind of, not kind of, but when you think about it, it's conversations like this is why, it's why the show is the show that it is. It's why Wake Up Call is what Wake Up Call is. You be yourself. You talk about your history. You talk about the hard things, right? We've always talked about the hard things here on the show. I've been very personal and very open about my stuff, my strife, my trying to figure things out in life, right? My pain, my suffering. I've cried, I've laughed, I've been upset, and that just genuine just people being people, right? Sharing their stories. That's what we're all about. I mean, that's why I didn't know how to say goodbye to Phil right now, because the conversation to me was just, it was that thing when you're just like sitting on a couch and you're having a cup of tea and you're like, I don't want this conversation to end. And so, that's why we're here. That's why I do what I do. So that we can make this world small in a great way. We can spread love in a big way, and we can put God in the center, hopefully the right way. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we'll be back after this. This is Wake Up Call, and you're awesome.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time inside of these awesome studios. We're always having a good time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I just want to show some love for what's here, and you can see a bunch of things here. And so what we did was the studio goes, there's literally stuff like all the way here, all the way around, and we have a bunch of things that we added here. I want to shout out the Cook family and one of my big-time supporters that I appreciate so very much, Mr. Bill Cook. And Bill, I promised you that this was going to be in the studio after you gave it to me on Super Bowl Sunday. I apologize that I did not get it into the studio quick enough. It was with me, but it was not in the... I had to clean it and get it all set. So I apologize for not keeping my word and putting it in the studio that Monday. It's in the studio now. I added it last weekend, or toward the end of the week. It's a Sam Adams mug here. No connection to Sam Adams specifically, but it came from Bill Cook, one of my awesome listeners and watchers and supporters, and a wonderful family. So I just wanted to say, Bill, it is here because I told you it would be, and I wanted to make sure I kept my word on that. So sorry for the delay. And this is also in my studio, and I brought up my grandfather. You can see this shirt, and it says Miller Day 1986 under the Carrier Dome. My dad's dad, my grandpa Ralph, he worked at Miller, so I always call him Pop Miller because, growing up as a kid, I, saw him in connection with Miller, and I went to one of the parties that they had. There's like a bunch of tents. It was like a big picnic and whatnot. So I found this yesterday, and my dad brought over some of my clothes that were at his house, and I actually have two of these. And so this is here in my studio now in honor of my grandfather, my grandpa Tortora, and my grandpa Cavino. This is always with me everywhere I go. This is his Navy hat. And if you look really closely, I don't know if you could see it on the screen here. Maybe not because of the lighting here, but yeah, you can. So it says T.A. Cavino for Thomas Archibald Cavino, and this was his hat. This was his Navy hat from World War II. So we have that here, and we got a bunch of different things that are in connection with my family and kind of just all around here. And we have an awesome, I don't think I ever showed this on the show before, so let me show you this. My dad went on vacation, and this was made at I forget where he stopped, where he was, but he was on a cruise. I think this was on the cruise. And so there was a person that had masks here, obviously made out of wood. And so this person designed them for all the different teams. And so wherever my dad was, they made this mask of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that logo is very accurate there. That's a really awesome logo. So my dad gave this to me and put this in the studio. So there's a lot of things here in the studio that they're unique. They're very unique. My mom got me this for Christmas. And so you know that I do a show called Superpowered Pop, which is entertainment, and we talk about Spider-Man and all that good stuff and comic books and movies and TV shows. So she got me Miles Morales, Spider-Man, playing basketball, and this is literally like this is a picture into my world of sports and entertainment, and doing a show like Superpowered Pop and Comic Book Trails and Do Diz with Dan, while also doing Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So this embodies the fact that I live in both worlds of sports and entertainment and love them very much so equally. And so I appreciate Mom getting me that, and I know you can't really see that on camera. So, there's a lot of great things with the studio and making sure that you get to see it and enjoy it, and I get to walk around in it now that we've made this an open air studio, and it kind of goes all the way around here. So very excited for the opportunity to do things the way I want to do things. And I feel like when I'm doing the show a lot, like I'm staying in one place, right? I'm trying to just connect right here, but it's like I can move around, and I love it. So get some cardio in the studio, get things rocking and rolling. So speaking of running around, speaking of cardio, speaking of what's going on, what is going on with Syracuse basketball? Now, the Syracuse women's basketball team is doing very well. Right. And the focus, I know a lot of people are asking the question, what's going on with Syracuse men's basketball? But do not miss out on what's going on the other team here for basketball at Syracuse, and that's Syracuse women's basketball. This team has definitely, in a very short amount of time with Felicia Leggett-Jack, and I want to preface this by saying Coach Q is a friend. He has always been nice to me. He was there for me in times in my life that were, memorable forever, and always treated me with respect, always kind to me, always there for me. And I appreciate Coach Q so very much in everything that he has done in his life and all the positives and just the love and the belief in God. I appreciate all of that. I want to say that first. With that being said, Felicia Leggett-Jack in her own right has done a tremendous job at Syracuse. 22-4. Right now, at the time we're talking, 12-3 in the ACC. They've won 5 games in a row. They're 13-1 inside of the dome. They're 7-3 on the road, and they're 2-0 on neutral court. To have a winning record, it's typical. I don't want to say it's typical, but when you're looking at winning records, home, away, neutral, you're always hoping that you take care of home, right? You got to take care of home base. But away, it's like if you have an above 500 record away, then it's like, okay, that's good, because it is tough to play away from home. I don't care what sport you play, and you could see a 2-6 record, something to that respect, right? You could see a 3-7, but 7-3 on the road, very, very awesome record, and then 2-0 on neutral ground. So away from the dome, away from home, this Syracuse women's basketball team this season is 9-3. That's remarkable. And so as we look at this 5-game winning streak and what they've done here in recent history and we'll get into what they have coming up here, but this 5-game winning streak began with Boston College on the road at Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, 75-63. And then from there, they went on to defeat at home in the Dome Georgia Tech by 3 points, 62-59. They gutted it out against Louisville, who was ranked 15th in the nation at the time, in the Dome, 73-72. Then they went to Coral Gables, Florida, and defeated Miami, this Syracuse Orange women's basketball team, 71-60. And then they defeated Virginia most recently here on Sunday, 85-79 in Charlottesville, Virginia. So most recent game was on the road. They're going to be at home in the Dome this Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. That's Syracuse Orange women's basketball, looking for their 6th straight victory, and they're facing off against Duke. Then they will have Pittsburgh in the Dome on Sunday, February 25th at 2 p.m., and they will round out the regular season before the ACC tournament when they face off in a leap year on February 29th, Thursday at 7 p.m. They will be on the road in Raleigh, North Carolina, facing off against the NC State Wolf Pack. So, where does that leave the women's basketball team for Syracuse in general? Well, I love that you asked. And so we'll take a look at exactly where they are in the grand scheme of things here in the rankings and in the standings. When we look at the rankings for women's basketball, this is a team, Syracuse Orange women's basketball, that's found their way into the rankings and stayed in the rankings, rising up them through this season. So taking a look at the rankings right now, Syracuse is currently 17th. They went up 2 spots in the Associated Press poll, 22-4, as I mentioned before. So they are currently in the nation. Just 2 spots above them, UConn. Gonzaga's women's basketball team that's done some good things here. They're 16th. The top teams in the nation right now, as far as the AP has ranked them, South Carolina got all of the first place votes with 35, followed by Ohio State, Stanford, Iowa, Texas, NC State, USC, Virginia Tech, Oregon State, Kansas State, Colorado, UCLA, LSU, the reigning national champions, are ranked 13th in the AP in women's basketball. Indiana, UConn, Gonzaga, then Syracuse, rounding out the top 25. Utah, Notre Dame, Louisville, Creighton, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Baylor, and Princeton. So Syracuse ranked above Notre Dame and Louisville, and looking good as they move forward here. And looking at these rankings overall, besides Virginia Tech, there's not another team in the ACC for women's basketball that's ranked higher than Syracuse in the nation. Oh, I'm sorry, NC State. Pardon me on that one. NC State and Virginia Tech. So NC State 6, Virginia Tech 8, and then Syracuse 17. So Syracuse, of the ACC's 15 member schools, the 3 that are ranked in the top 17, Syracuse is a part of that. The only teams in the ACC ranked higher than Syracuse for women's basketball, NC State and Virginia Tech. So some good stuff going on, and Syracuse will have a crack at Virginia Tech before they jump into the ACC tournament in that final regular season game for Syracuse women's basketball. We had some thoughts come in here. I want to get to them. Delrina, as well as Greg, and everybody that's been watching and listening, thank you so much. Delrina said, President Linda, awesome person, awesome basketball player also. Amen. And said, learning always. Greg said, ladies got to keep on winning and accumulating ACC victories in order to get that valued top 4 seed in the tournament. Very realistic for the squad. Yeah, I mean, listen, the way that this women's team has been playing at Syracuse, I am in hopes that they will get a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. You got to take care of business, right? You got to do what you got to do. But if we take a look here at bracketology, and I do my own bracketology predictions and whatnot, but just for argument's sake here to discuss here this morning, I'll take a look at what I'm seeing in bracketology, not from mine, but to just take a look at it. They are a 4 seed right now as it stands, and projected a 4 seed, and that they would be playing in the second highest bracket. So the Albany would be 1, Portland 2, then Albany 3, Portland 4, and that's what we'd be looking at here. So they have them projected playing in Syracuse because you get to have the opportunity to host when you're in certain seating for the women's side of things, which I think is great. And so the women's side, as of right now, has Syracuse in that region. I do want to, in the place where they get to be in a top 4 seed and get to start off the postseason for the NCAA tournament at home, which would be great because they've done so well at home, 13-1. Women's basketball for the ACC as it stands right now, the seeding is that Syracuse would still be a 2 seed. When we talked about this before, Syracuse was a 2 seed then. They've continued that. They're a game behind the Virginia Tech Hokies. And like I said, the only 2 teams ranked higher in the ACC in the nation than Syracuse are NC State and Virginia Tech. However, in the standings of the ACC, Syracuse, ranked 17th in the nation, is above NC State, who's ranked 8th. If they beat NC State, that would be a big-time win against a top 10 team and help to provide the opportunity to stay in second place and be one of those top 2 seeds in the ACC tournament, which means that they will not play in the first round, and they'll get a bye throughout this year. If we take a look at the ACC tournament women's bracket here for 2024, I want to take a look at the women's bracket because they do this, like if it ended today, this is where we would be at, and they've been posting that for the last couple weeks here. But if we take a look at where this bracket would be right now, Syracuse would be playing. I want to see if I could just bring the bracket up here to myself in the studio. I'm the type of person that I like looking at the actual physical bracket. So yeah, okay, here we go. So Syracuse would not have to play until the quarterfinal rounds. The top 4 seeds advance all the way, same like the men's side of things. The first and second round do not feature the top 4 seeds. They get automatically a double move forward. So they get a double bye if you're in the top 4 seeds in the ACC for men's or women's basketball, which means that the women right now, as the 2 seed, would advance past the first round, past the second round, into the quarterfinals. They'd only have to win 3 games to win the championship. And I know that, these are talented teams, but better having to win 3 in a row than having to win, 3 in 3 days than 5 in 5 days. So looking at this right now, they would be playing, if they remain the 2 seed and they have the opportunity to do so here, they would be playing at 5 p.m. Eastern time on the ACC network in the quarterfinals, and they would be playing the winner of the 10-15 matchup, who would play the 7 seed, who would then play Syracuse if Syracuse stays, hopefully, in that spot, if not higher. So Virginia Tech is the only team above them right now, which is awesome here. Yep, got to be a top 4 better team to host. Yes, Greg. I thought it was top 3, but top 4 to host in the NCAA tournament for women's basketball. SU metrics are not great due to strength of schedule. They got to keep getting these ACC wins. So, yeah, listen, you play the teams that are in front of you. You do the job that you got to do. And Syracuse women's basketball has done a tremendous job up to this point. We are going to talk about the men's side of things, and we're going to do that in the Ingredients to Success, which will help set up my conversation with Roosevelt Bowie Jr., Syracuse Orange basketball alum, for tomorrow's broadcast. All of that's coming up right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognize that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career, it's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, available to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is our premier sports card shop of choice. Why? Because of the service, because of the people. That's what it comes down to. When it comes to something that I care about, it's the people. It's how you're treated. It's what is offered to you there by their guest service. Josh Gideon, Anthony Campbell, the whole team, Alex, Joel, and everybody, they care about the people that come through. They answer questions. They provide for you an opportunity to connect with the sports card world. If you've never connected with the world before, they help to bring you into it. If you have, then they help to continue that story, continue that journey for you. I love the fact that they have so many great product. They care about things. They're constantly opening cards. They're improving their collection. They have their personal collection. They have their collection of things that they find that they're willing to trade and sell and so on and so forth. And I love the experience. Every single day I wake up, I'm like, man, I want to go to the card shop today. And when somebody creates that feeling inside of you, it's because they're different, right? There's a lot of places that sell cards, but there's not a lot of places that you wake up in the morning and say, I want to go over there every day just to say hi, just to see everybody, see what they have. They're always bringing in new product. They're always evolving, because once something comes in, hey, as soon as people come in there, I might tell you they got a bunch of boxes of Panini Prism, and then by that afternoon, half of those boxes are gone, and by tomorrow, they're all gone. So make sure that you head in there. They are open daily, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., on Sundays from 10 to 5 on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Speaking of GG Cards and Breaks, they have singles, they have packs, they have graded cards, they have boxes. They have everything that you need to protect your cards. They have the sleeves and the binders and the cardboard boxes to put them into. They also have the one-touch cases. They have all different size top loaders. They have the plastic sleeves for you as well. So make sure that you go in there. Hockey, basketball, baseball, football, all sport. I think I said soccer. If I didn't, soccer, AEW, Disney Lorcana, Pokemon. It's all there. Graded cards, numbered cards, rookie cards, patch cards, rookie patch auto cards, autograph cards. So many amazing, amazing pieces of history that connect us to the teams and the players that we love. So make sure that you, and the characters that we love, make sure you head out to GG Cards and Breaks today. Let them know that DT sent you. You could simply say that. Say, DT sent me to GG. All you got to do is remember 3 letters and double one of them. DT sent me to GG. It's as simple as that. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora very much appreciates our sports card home of choice, GG Cards and Breaks. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I appreciate you being here, appreciate you hanging out with us. It's time to do our final segment that we do every Tuesday, the Ingredients to Success, proudly presented by the wonderful team at Avicolli's, 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. And guess where we're going to be tomorrow? Well, you guessed it. We are going to be on site, on location at Avicolli's, 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, right down the road from Liverpool High School. And we will be with the Liverpool Warriors boys basketball team, led by Syracuse Orange basketball alum, Mr. Ryan Blackwell. Him and his team, who join me every year, will be joining me once again on site, on location at Avicolli's on the pizza side, the casual dining side. So you will see us there, and that will be this Wednesday, February 21st. The casual dining side. That's going to be happening, like I said, this Wednesday, February 21st, 5:15 p.m. So come and eat dinner with us. If you're getting out of work, or, if you're getting out of work, you get out a little bit after 5:15, that's fine. Head over, hang out with us. If you're going to be out of work already, then obviously make your way over to see us. We will be there this Wednesday at Avicolli's with the Liverpool Warriors boys basketball team, led by Ryan Blackwell, on site, on location at Avicolli's, Wednesday, February 21st, 5:15 p.m. We look forward to seeing you there, as we always do. And we look forward to you coming over and supporting the wonderful student athletes that we have here in the Liverpool area. So much love and much appreciation to everybody that's come out and supported, and much love and appreciation to everybody that's going to be coming out and supporting tomorrow night at Avicolli, supporting local kids, local team, local school, and local business all together here, and a local in myself supporting the show. And I was born and raised here in Central New York. So we look forward to seeing you out there and having some fun with you at Avicolli's. The Ingredients to Success coming to you every single Tuesday, proudly presented by the team at Avicolli's, led by John Fratto, who I appreciate tremendously for his care for the community, his hard work, his dedication to the community, and just his love and his passion, and the fact that he's working on the line. I don't think that you see John much of any time without having, the flower on the apron that he's got on, and this and that. I mean, he is constantly doing a million things, placing the orders, bringing all the supplies he needs in to make those awesome dishes that you love, to cooking there on the line with everybody, to answering phone calls, to going up front and making sure people have what they need, to saying hello to guests and thanking them for coming in. John Fratto truly is one of those people that embodies the blue-collar community of Central and Upstate New York, and I appreciate that so very much, and the whole staff at Avicolli. So with that being said, my topic for today is what is going on with Syracuse Orange men's basketball. They get a big-time win, and then they fall off, and then they get another win where you're like, oh, that looks good, and then they fall off. They have not built consistency this season. So what have I learned about this team? Well, I learned that this team has a lot of potential. They really do. This team has a lot of potential, speaking about Syracuse. The problem that I have with what's going on with Syracuse Orange men's basketball is that there seems to be a lack of leadership, a lack of accountability. Maybe not a lack of accountability, because the guys do bounce back, but there's a lack of leadership that I see with this Syracuse team. I see a lack of leadership, and I see that when you're winning, and this is easy, When you're winning, people feel good. People like each other. When you're losing, people get frustrated. And we saw that on the sidelines against Georgia Tech. There was a couple moments where the Syracuse sideline did not look all copacetic, all, we are one family. It felt a little disjointed and disbanded. And hopefully they can bounce back from moments like that. There is frustration. When frustration spills over into the public sphere, that is very concerning to me. When people see that kind of just right in front of their face, that's something that is very concerning to me. When it's like, okay, you guys might be having problems, you might be frustrated with each other, but you're now showing that to the public, right? And there's something to be said about not being fake in any way, shape, or form, but there's a way to, you got to handle your business in your house, right? You have to handle your business in your house. And when that spills out into the public sphere, this is one of the ingredients to success here. When it spills out into the public sphere, now you have other people involved, right? If you're having trouble in paradise, as they call it, right? If you're having trouble in paradise, that's one thing. But when you start to do it, it's the difference between having an argument at home and trying to discuss and get through it and having the argument at Walmart in the parking lot. Because now everybody sees it, and now everybody's like, wow, who are those two weird people just screaming at each other? That looks ridiculous. But not that you should be at home screaming at each other, not you should be anywhere screaming at each other. But there is a time and place to have conversations, right? And the camera's going to pick up this stuff. So if Syracuse is having trouble and there's dissension and there's lack of focus and there's leadership issues and there's character issues or just, guys not controlling their emotions, if you're doing that at the Mello Center, you're doing that in private, right? You're by yourselves, there's nobody there, there's no media there, and you're having those discussions in private. When you do that at a game, the cameras are picking that up on the sideline. And that happened against Georgia Tech. So Syracuse as a family needs to learn how to control their emotions. They need to learn how to work together. Somebody has to step up as a leader, and there has to be some type of a plan and a focus forward. Because playing street ball doesn't work, right? Just playing the pickup game and let's just, I'm kind of playing by myself, but maybe I'll pass the ball off. That doesn't work against good teams. And even if you made a tournament, you'd still get bounced because that doesn't work against teams that work together. People wonder why teams are winning that are teams that you don't expect. The Woffords and the Elons and so on and so forth of the world. How are these teams winning? And it's because when you play up, and I'm using their names as an example, when you play together and you have good leadership and you have good focus and you can figure things out and you don't let your issues as a team spill out into the public sector where everybody can see it and now everybody has an opinion and now everybody's pushing to talk about this. When you know how to control your emotions, when you know where your leadership comes from, when you have a central focus, and when you genuinely care about each other, and it's not about just playing for yourself, but it's about playing for each other, when those things happen, these teams win. And so when people say, how does this team win, who nobody knows who they are, I didn't even know it was a school, how does that team win? Well, look at their makeup. Have the guys been together for a while? Have they worked together? Have they learned together? How are they on the sideline? How are they when they're down by 15? How are they when they're up by 15? Because there's been moments in character for Syracuse where, they hit a shot, they're still down by 15, they're down by 10, they want to celebrate. Get back on defense. Or you're up by 15. Oh, the game's over. It's not over. There's 12 minutes left. Get back on defense. Now, I care about these guys, and I say this because I care, and I say it constructively. Syracuse has a lack of leadership. That is visible. Syracuse has a lack of control of emotion. That is visible. Syracuse has a street ball mentality as opposed to playing fundamental basketball. That has been visible. These are things that I'm not saying things to you that you can't see with your own eye if you go back and watch a game. Syracuse is inconsistent. That is visible. It's not that Syracuse is full of a bunch of bad players. It's not that Syracuse is incapable. And it's not that Syracuse doesn't have guys that I believe are going to really make an impact on the program in its history, like Quadir Copeland. It's that Syracuse right now they don't know their identity, they don't know who the leaders are, and they're not working cohesively. And some of that falls on Adrian and his leadership, because if you guys are fighting on the sideline during a timeout where you're trying to talk and get things focused and they're not focused, you can't control what they say and do. But once it happens, you got to lock it up. That should not happen again. There's already been a dismissal from the program, and there seemed to be a big issue on the sideline against Georgia Tech. And for Syracuse, being on the road at Georgia Tech, there seemed to be a big issue. And it seemed like Adrian did not have control of the situation. You cannot control what other people say and do. That was up to the people involved, but you can control how you decide to lead. You can control what your message is, and you can control what you're going to do with the time that's allotted to you. That, to me, is childish when you see the stuff that we saw over the weekend. And hopefully it got squashed, and hopefully it's not happening, and people make mistakes. And, if this happened 2, 3, 4, 5 times, now we're talking about a real program issue. If it only happens once, okay, it's not a great situation. It's not a good look. But if it doesn't happen from here, then I would say, okay, maybe then Adrian went in, he established his leadership even more, and we're moving forward. The disjointed, disbanded, we're good, but we're like together, but like we're kind of not, but sometimes we are, that's not going to work. This whole mentality of we're going to shoot threes and hope to God to make them. Syracuse went 4 of 25. They got out-rebounded 47-21 or something to that respect. And, Syracuse has won games when they've shot really well. But you look at everything else that's not working. Syracuse needed Chris Bell to make 8 out of 10 3-pointers, to go 80% from 3. They needed him to go 80% from 3 to make 8 to win by 2. 92-90 over Louisville when Louisville came to visit. And Louisville at the time was 7-15 overall. Losing, I think their record in the ACC at that time going into the game was 2-9. So, or around that area. Syracuse cannot rely on, gosh, I hope we really shoot well tonight. I hope we got 2 guys that can make threes tonight. I hope we have 1 guy who can go better than 50% from 3 tonight. You have to make your free throws. That's a thing you might not like doing in practice. It might be mundane, it might be boring, it might be frustrating, but that's something that you have to do in practice. I'm the type of person that never needed a coach to tell me to shoot free throws. My coach would have me shoot 10 to 20 in practice. I would go home and shoot 100 in the sleet. I would shoot 100 in sleet. I would go and shoot free throws in sleet, in rain, in snow, in sun, and when it's hot, when it's cold. It didn't matter because I cared about that part of my game. In my mind, it's a free shot. I should never miss any of them because I'm not being defended. I have 10 seconds to shoot. I have time. I can set myself. There's nobody in front of me. Yeah, some people might boo. Somebody might say something to me on the other team. But beyond that, I'm just sitting there by myself, hanging out, doing my thing. So you shouldn't be missing free throws, and not as many as Syracuse misses. So, and definitely not the guards. You expect a 7-foot center to miss free throws. Syracuse doesn't have a 7-foot center on the floor. Hopefully Naheem McLeod will come back and he'll be healthy and he'll be well, but he's not on the floor. So you don't have that, right? You have under 7 foot. And you got guys that are missing these free throws. And the way that the game has evolved, guys that are 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, they're making free throws. They're making threes. So Syracuse has to make the freebies. Syracuse has to get some leadership and know where it's coming from. Syracuse has to not play street ball, and they have to get fundamental. They have to run plays. They have to set screens. And for goodness mother sakes, they have to box out. I don't know how many times I have to say this. It was with Jim Boeheim. It's with Adrian Autry now. The teams don't box out. They don't box out at all. Shoot a shot, run away. I'm going to make every shot. If you shoot the way Syracuse shoots, you think you're a 100% shooter as a team, that you're never going to miss a shot. Shot, bye. Goodbye. No, Go and rebound. What do the teams do against you? They rebound. How many times did teams get second and third chance points against Syracuse? A second opportunity, a third opportunity. On that same possession, same way down the floor, they got another chance and another chance. We see that in every single game? I think every single game this season in the Dome, you've seen that the shot goes up, they miss, and then they grab their own rebound, and the fans start to get frustrated. And the more it happens, they get more frustrated. And you hear those murmurs, you hear that frustration come out because you're giving them a free chance. And then you're giving them a chance after a chance after a chance to try and get the ball in. And these are Division I players. So if they miss the first one, there's a better chance to me they're going to make the second one, the third one, because you keep giving them opportunities. And how many times is Syracuse, the guy misses a three, gets his own rebound, or somebody gets the rebound, passes it to another guy who shoots a three and makes it? It doesn't mean anything what you did on that possession if you allow an offensive rebound and the score to be had. Okay, well, we didn't. We prevented a three with 13 minutes and 37 seconds left. But with 13 minutes and 15 seconds left, they made the three because they got a new possession, and 12 seconds later, they shot it and they made it. I mean, what did I say, 13:37 and 13:15? Is that what I said? So that'd be 22 seconds. But you know what I mean, right? You give an opportunity and you give another opportunity. The more you give, the better chance they have that they're going to complete one of these opportunities. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see Syracuse playing the way that they're playing, fully understanding that this is not how you win basketball games. And it's not how you move forward in tournaments. It's not how you make the national tournament. And something needs to change. So Adrian's leadership has to be concrete, not this leadership that's like sometimes it's there. It has to be concrete, right? He has to establish himself as a leader. He has not been, these guys that came back from last year, he wasn't their leader. Jim Boeheim was. So that's a transition period for them to get to know that his voice is different. He's not the big brother anymore for the team. He's not the guy you go to after Jim Boeheim gives you tough love. He's the head coach now. So he has to move into that role. The assistant coaches that are moving up here, they have to move into their roles that might seem similar, but they are different. Adrian's an associate head coach now. He is he's the right-hand man, the second in command, which moves Alan Griffin down the line. And then they bring in Brendan Strawn. These guys are in roles now where there is a new leader. And Adrian might ask different things of them. The leadership has to be established on the coaching staff. The leadership has to be established on the floor. Judah Mintz, to me, was not a leader. So when he went to the NBA, it's like, hey, you can shoot, but you're not a leader. Go back and learn how to be a leader. I don't think he's learned how to be a leader. He's got to learn how to be a leader. It's not there yet. It's just not. Right? And here's my thing with Justin Taylor. His shot was off for a game or two or three. Now I think it's in his head. I think it's in his head that, like, I can't shoot. And this is coming from a shooter. Did I play Division I? No, but I played basketball pretty much my entire life. I am a shooter. I know in my head, and I know this is something that I believe. It's like when you know the game, you can coach the game. And in coaching the game, I would want to take Justin aside right now and be like, hey, man, I know where you're at. Your shot, your whole mechanics are probably off right now because in your head, you've missed shots, you're frustrated, you know people are frustrated with you, you're frustrated with yourself, you're trying to do it, trying to force it, and in trying to force it, you're probably messing up with your mechanics, your flow, and your release, and we need to get back to basics. So what I would say to Justin is, we got to get to a place of peace, we got to play some music, we got to talk to mom, dad, we have to refocus, we have to reset, we have to give our mind ease, give it a break, and then we need to go into practice and we need to relearn our motion, relearn our shot. And once you do all those things, once you reset, take a deep breath, refocus, and get back to your mechanics and get back to feeling like yourself again, because this is the thing he needs to do in practice. It's not about making shots in practice. It's about getting back into his flow. Because when you start missing as someone who's a shooter on the team, and when I say a shooter, someone who could shoot anywhere on the floor, somebody who can make threes from all over the place, I pride myself on that. So when I'm taking it, right, I know my motion. I know when I'm going up. I know how I want to look. I know how I want to feel when I release. And this ceiling's not that high, so I got to be careful that I'm not scraping myself. But I have to know when I'm doing this, I need to know what my motion is. And as soon as something goes off, as soon as I turn my hands when I'm shooting, as soon as this doesn't feel right, I have to get back into getting into a place where I have to think about my motion, think about my shot, and I have to think about it till I get it right, until it becomes a part of my life again and I don't have to think about it and it just flows from me. I think Justin needs to reset. And once he resets on and off the floor, once he resets and gets his mind right and gets his shot right and gets his flow right, he's going to start making them again in practice. And then in a game, if you're not making threes, you know what they used to tell me? And I think that I really do believe that this works. Take one step in. If you're taking a three and you're airballing it, but it was a good shot and it was in line, it was just a little bit off, take a step in the arc, take a shot, right? And see how that works. Because if you're a step off, then I'd rather you take the two and make the two than miss the three every single time. He has to get out of his own head. He's got to relax. The ingredients to success are about building positives. So we talked about constructive criticism. Now let's build the team up, right? So that's what Justin needs to do, in my opinion. What Judah needs to do is Judah needs to understand you got talent all around you. JJ's really talented. Quadir's really talented. Judah, we know that you could do different things, but you're the point guard. You're supposed to be distributing. So you have to look for your guys. You can't be dribbling down the clock to force a shot. Because if you force a shot with 20 seconds left, or you force a shot with 7 seconds left, you're still forcing the shot. Move the ball around, look for your teammates. Understand you're a good player, but your leadership, you want to keep the ball in your hands, maybe because you think if I let it go, they're going to shoot. But a point guard is supposed to let it go in the right spots and trust his players, trust his teammates, and know them well enough to know if I let it go in this spot to this person, they can make that shot. They can do this. This is their game. He needs to learn more about their game and not just his game. Expand that and be okay with letting the ball leave his hands, because if you're a good leader and the people that you are trying to lead know that you care about them and you want them to win and you want them to improve, if you make other people better around you, the ball will come back to you. Adrian, you weren't the main voice of this program. For almost 50 years, it was Jim Boeheim. Now you are the voice of this program. You got to speak up. And maybe you do in practice, and maybe you don't. But what I can say is, Adrian, this is your baby now. This is your kid. You are learning on the fly of what coach you want to be, because it's the first time you've been a head coach. But there's no better time than today of establishing, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like. And sometimes we have to go through them. Sometimes we have to literally experience them to go, I don't like this, I like this. I wasn't prepared for this. There are things that if Adrian is truly honest with me, which I would hope he would be after us knowing each other for, a decade, that if we sat down together and we talked about this, he would say, I didn't know I didn't like that. I didn't know I liked that. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to have to deal with this. There's a lot of I don't knows, but now you know. So where do we go from here? I don't care what happened in the beginning of the season. Let's finish strong. What type of leader are you? How are you going to lead your program? What are the fundamentals? What are your foundational pieces? You have to know those things. You can't just say, well, I know it in my head. You have to tell your players. This is what I care about. These are the foundations. These are my pillars, right? Take care of the classroom. Respect each other. Practice good nutrition habits. Rest. Whatever they are, right? Have a faith in God. Have strength in God. Know there's something bigger than yourself. Selflessness. What are your things? What are your pillars? You have to know what your pillars are. You can't just run a program. You can't run a business without pillars. When people ask me what I stand for, I can tell you. God is at the center of my life. Morals and values. What are those morals and values? I have to get better at this one, but I believe you have to be on time. I believe you have to be early. Not on time, but early. I believe in that. I believe you have to be respectful. You have to treat people the way that you want to be treated. The golden rule. I believe that you have to know what you're talking about. That you can't talk out of your butt. that you have to do the research. You have to do the work. You have to get rest. You have to establish who you are as a leader. What matters to you? Timeliness, good management, consistently good work, not occasionally great work. You have to know who you're planning to be and what you're planning to do in order to run a program, to run a show, to run a business, to lead a family. Adrian's running a business, coaching a team, and leading a family. That's what it means to be a head coach. And he's, I'm sure, learning a lot of things every single day. And now it's about taking what you've learned and implementing them. You have to be the leader of this team. And you have to determine who your leader is on the floor. Not who scores the most points, not who does the most this, not the one who kisses up the most. You need to know who is your leader. Who is the guy that you would give the clipboard to and put in your seat to coach the team? What one of these young men at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old would you trust to coach this team? And if you don't have a single one of those guys on the team, you need to go recruit. This team is not dead in the water. This team is not forgettable. This team is not garbage. I don't like when people are mean and hateful and talk about people in such a way that you would never want anyone to ever speak about you. Syracuse constructively needs to get better, but it starts with understanding. To me, it starts with faith. It starts with God. I don't think you can do anything without God. In today's world, people don't want to talk about it, but I don't know how you build a family without God. I don't know how you build faith in each other if you don't have faith in who is above us all. How do you have faith in each other and not have faith in God? How do you even know anything about faith if you don't have faith in God? So I think God has to be at the center. I think morals and values, I think everybody needs to be treated the same. If Judah shows up 15 minutes late to practice and a walk-on shows up 15 minutes late to practice, they run the same. Not, well, it's Judah. I don't want to piss him off. He'll go in the transfer portal. No. You're late to practice. You got to run. Kyle Cuff plays 5 minutes. Judah plays 37 minutes. They both get in a scuffle in practice. They both don't play the first half of the upcoming game. Because if you say Kyle Cuff doesn't play the first half of the upcoming game, Kyle Cuff hasn't played the first half of a bunch of games. That's not a punishment. And it's not a punishment if Judah plays. I just had this conversation with the coach this past week of an issue that happened with two teams. And he sat his players to teach them a lesson. The other guy played his players so that he can make sure he won. Because it's all about winning. Allegedly. I can't say because I'm not in their brain, but when you make a move like that, when you say, I'm not gonna reprimand anybody, you're all gonna play. What does that teach anybody? Hey, if I do something really bad, I'm gonna play. If I do something really good, I'm gonna play. Doesn't matter what I do, I'm gonna play. That doesn't teach good life lessons. It actually teaches the opposite. And when those people go out into society, those people are not the ones that I want to be around in society. The people that think, hey, if I do a bad thing, who cares? Because when I did bad things growing up, people told me it was fine because I'm talented. So now when I do bad things and I'm talented, you have to be okay with that. Right? No. Syracuse is not a bad team. Syracuse is not a bad program. They're a program in need of faith, leadership, family, and fundamentals. It's not that hard, okay? It might be hard to get them to believe in it. It might be hard to get them to have that faith. It might be hard to get them to act as a family. It might be hard to get them to work on fundamentals if you haven't been working on them. But this is not a dead-in-the-water situation. This is a pivot. These kids play basketball. If they don't know how to pivot, then they don't know how to play basketball. And if you don't know how to pivot, you don't know how to live life. Because you got to pivot all the time. Every single day offers you an opportunity to ad-lib. There is no day on this planet where you could just do everything and not have to worry about literally, and I don't want to say worry because worry is the wrong word, but There's never been a day, 24 hours in life, where you haven't had to ad-lib, pivot, change directions. So this team is not dead in the water. This team is not lost. This team is in need of focus, in need of faith, in need of family, and in need of fundamentals. Those are their ingredients to success. And I believe in these guys. I constructively am looking at them, saying where they could get better, but I absolutely want them to get better. I don't like seeing negativity. I don't like these kids having to go through this hate and this ridicule and all this stuff. But you know the truth. They know they're not doing fundamentals. They know they're not acting like a family. They know they're not maybe having faith in each other and in something bigger than themselves. And they know that they're not focused. So if they can do these things, having talent is having talent. There's a lot of people that have talent and they don't go anywhere with it. Because if you don't have faith and you don't have focus and you don't have that family, that connectiveness, and you don't have the fundamentals, the morals, the values, you're not going to be successful. There's a lot of talented people that don't go any farther than their couch because they don't know how to implement. They don't implement. They don't put things into practice. They don't challenge themselves. They don't hold themselves accountable. You want a good Syracuse team? Take the talent that they have and implement these other things. Faith, family, focus, fundamentals. And I really hope that they bring these things in and they finish strong because I want the best for them. I always have. I always will. I care about these kids. And you don't see them like I see them. You see them on the floor. I see them when they're upset, when they're happy, when they're this, that. And a lot of us build friendships. Over these years, I've had the opportunity to build many friendships with many of these student athletes and professional athletes of all different ages. And that's why it's hard for me to sit here and constructively say, like, here are the things that they're not doing right? That's hard because they could take that harshly, but you have to take a step back and say, what is Dan saying? Why is Dan saying it? What is Dan saying? Well, he's saying things that are pretty clear on film. Well, why is he saying it? Because he wants us to succeed. Leadership is not saying we're doing a lot of things wrong, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Leadership is saying we're doing a lot of things wrong, and I need to create a plan to try and get us on track. And they might not like it, but you can be honest, and some people might be pissed off, or you can lie or omit or just not pay attention and be aloof, and you can stamp your fate. When things aren't working, you can be the person that says nothing and does nothing in hopes that things will change, which makes absolutely no sense, and things just get progressively worse. Or you could be the person that's not everybody's best friend in the moment because you have to say things that are tough, but it ends up making you better. My parents, they've had to say things to me that I knew in my heart of hearts was true. And I didn't want to hear it, but I had to hear it, or else I wouldn't have grown. There were coaches. I had to hear it, or else I wouldn't have grown. There were teachers. I had to hear it, or else I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have made certain decisions. I had a teacher tell me, you're not coming to I'll write you a recommendation for grad school, but we've taught you everything we could. It's time for you to go out into the world. You're not going to learn anything from grad school. You've done too much. You've done enough. You have to move forward. You have to move on. She didn't have to tell me that. She could have been like, yeah, you can come to grad school. I'll teach you. The school will make more money. It'll be great. She said, you don't need this. You need to go. You need to go live. You've done so much here. It's time to move on. Right? Sometimes you have to say the things to people that they don't want to hear. But when you coddle people, they're never going to truly amount to the person that God called them to be. You don't become the greatest version of yourself by being coddled, by being lied to, by people omitting and not wanting to ruffle your feathers. I think the best coaches ruffle feathers, but they do it in a way where it's respectful. God bless me. But I believe that. I believe the coaches that the best coaches that are out there are the ones that ruffle your feathers, but do it in a respectful way. Because there's coaches that have really great messages to share, and it would have really helped somebody, but they say it in such a rude and disrespectful way that you don't remember what they said. You just remember that coach was a jerk. Or they might say the same thing that somebody else says to you down the road, but it didn't work when this person said it to you because they said it to you in such a hateful way. It's not easy to be a leader. You have to have tough conversations. You have to ask people to do things they're not doing. And you have to find a way to respect them and meet them at where they are in their life. You have to tell them something difficult while doing it in such a way that you want them to be open to listening. You can't control if they're open. You can't control if they change. You can't control if they care. But you have to do everything in your power to deliver tough information in a loving, caring way in the hopes that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So Syracuse is not dead in the water. They just need some tough love, some family, some faith, some focus. They got to build up that foundation. They got to work on those fundamentals, and they got to move forward. And I would rather this team do things the right way and look better and feel better and love each other more and lose the next few games than to keep doing this. Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we look like we care, sometimes we look like we don't. I would rather them be consistently good to each other in their fundamentals in the sport of basketball and in life and not win than be up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Because if you got to be around these guys and you got to spend time with them, you can understand why you would root for them. I just want them to root for each other, and I want them to work on things so that they can get better and truly make the most of their experience in college and beyond. With that being said, these are the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful team at Avicolli, 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. You can go to Avicolli's Tuesday through Sunday. They are closed on Mondays. Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. Make sure you drink responsibly for those of you that are of age. And I definitely look forward to seeing you there this Wednesday, February 21st at 5:15 p.m., as I will be at Avicolli's on the pizza side, the casual dining side. They have the pizza side, casual dining. Then they have the fine dining side with the bar. And when the weather's permitting and it's nice, they're outside and they have all those beautiful flowers and everything outside for you as well. So a lot of great stuff from Avicolli's. You can also get in touch with them by going to myavicollis.com, and you can order online very easily. You can do it from my website. Go to wakeupcalldt.com, underneath the Partners tab, click on Avicolli's, and after you click on Avicolli's, you will be able to order right there. There's a button to order on my website. There's a button to order on theirs. Go to myavicollis.com. You can also call for takeout, delivery, and catering, 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. With that being said, this has been Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, they jump into the archives, and you can find them on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, GG Cards and Breaks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicolli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Mother's Cupboard, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, and Canine Campground Dog Boarding, who I trust with Miss Lily. And, of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your LeMoyne College Dolphins, it's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find the Dolphins Wednesdays at 9 a.m. during Dolphin time, and that is exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, as well as AD and DT and Dolphin Dive are. You could find first and third Wednesday of each month, AD and DT featuring Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. You can also find the Dolphin Dive the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, featuring student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. All of this content is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out our LeMoyne Dolphins playlist on our YouTube channel. You can also find them on the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com right underneath that tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. And as always, Fins way up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can find the Bobcats in a way you won't find anywhere else, called the Bobcat Buzz, and that brings you student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, telling their very unique story from right on James Street in Syracuse, New York. Men's and women's basketball going on right now, and men's and women's soccer coming off of their seasons and being recent national champions. I said it, and I'll say it again, national champions for men's and women's soccer at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. Baseball is getting started to roll into their second season, and of course, esports is on the way up and up with new head coach Connor Carroll. A lot of great stuff happening with the Bobcats. You can find it all by subscribing and hitting the notification bell on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. You can also find them on the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcat Nation. I appreciate you being here today, folks, and I thank you for your time. Big time thanks inside of MomandPa's What's Poppin' to Mr. Phil Harlow joining us of LeMoyne Dolphins history as well as Bishop Ludden history, a multi-home Hall of Famer in a bunch of different Hall of Fames, and speaking with us today about being ordained, being a minister, about his father, about going through racial inequality and things that he experienced in his life, talking about the bigger picture where sports truly meets life. And I am so very honored and privileged and thankful that God has led us to cross paths, and we've had the opportunity to speak with each other today on so many great topics. And I appreciate his extremely wonderful words for Tom Nyland, as well as Dr. Linda Lemira and Bob Beretta, and a God bless to Phil Harlow and his family, as well as everyone he works to touch through the love of God. Big time shout out to Syracuse men's and women's basketball, and of course in the ingredients to success, speaking on the men's basketball team and how to move forward from here with faith, family, focus, and fundamentals. I want to implore you to go to our Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X, the former Twitter, at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, and of course, like I said, on wakeupcalldt.com and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Please be safe, be good to each other, and as always, God